Nancy Stonecolumn. I'm the Conservation Coordinator for the Conservation Department, and one of my jobs, my main job, is to staff the Conservation Commission, which is a unique organization. There aren't any others in the state. Richland County created the Conservation Commission 18 years ago now to do conservation. They weren't sure how to do it, so they said, well, let's create a Conservation Commission to do that. And each council member appoints one member to the commission. We meet monthly, and the purpose is to promote the conservation of natural resources, to preserve historical properties and resources, and to promote outdoor nature-based recreation and the tourism that would go with ecotourism and heritage tourism. And then we recommend to council, occasionally they'll ask us for our opinion, our advice on a particular topic, and we study on that and make a recommendation. One of our main purposes for being is to hold conservation easements. We do this because it's not feasible and it's not really desirable for government to own all the land that we think is worthy of preservation, either for historic or natural resources purposes. So what we do is work with landowners, voluntary landowners that want to protect their property, and what we use is a tool called a conservation easement. Now, this is the case where the landowner keeps the land, but they give up certain rights, and mostly that's the right to subdivide their property. In other words, you're not going to be able to build a commercial development on it or to sell it to a developer for a lot of homes. You are giving up those rights. As a result of giving up those rights and putting this permanent protection on your land, then there are certain benefits that come because you are giving up this gift to the government or to a land trust. Somebody wants to leave their land just the way it is. They want to protect those natural resources, those conservation values. Maybe that's where they hunt, and they want their children and other people to be, friends and family, to be able to come and hunt or fish on the land. They may not want their children to sell the land when they inherit it and sell it for subdivision. So the only way to keep it natural is to put a conservation easement on it. And you can see the kinds of properties that we put easements on for wildlife habitat, to preserve farmland. Maybe there's a historic structure on the land. Then we work with the landowner to develop the easement language. That's a negotiation process, and we sometimes purchase those development rights. The county has set aside a small amount of money that we can work with the landowner to purchase on a per acre basis those development rights. As I said, because you are making this gift, there are tax benefits, both federal and state, and they can be substantial. So if you've got some land that you're thinking, gee, I really would like to keep this the way it is, give me a call, let's talk, and I can explain to you the process, what the options are, and what the benefits are. The Conservation Commission in Richland County holds smaller easements. If you have a lot of land and you're interested in the conservation easement, most of those landowners work with the Congaree Land Trust, and they cover about a 14 county area right here in the Midlands. We deal with landowners with smaller amounts of property. And this is on US 1, way out in the northeast section going towards Elgin. Two members of the Monroe family, we acquired easements on their property. And if you know the northeast, you know how developed it is. And you're driving down US 1 and all of a sudden you get past all these subdivisions and there's this bucolic beauty from the Monroe family. I mean, it's still their land. They have to maintain it in its natural state. Now, these are farmland easements, so they are saying that they're going to leave it in farmland, but that can be timberland. That could be transitioned from pastures or row cropping into timberland. We're very interested in protecting water quality, and so most of our easements have some kind of water component, either wetlands or stream protection. And so you can see a list of a number of areas where we have easements. The idea is to have a vegetated buffer along the stream, along the wetlands, instead of allowing development to cut up right to the edge of the stream. These vegetated buffers provide protection so that all the runoff that's coming into the creek or the wetlands, it's filtered by that vegetation. It reduces the runoff, reduces erosion, and it catches some of the pollutants on the land instead of going in the water. So it's a major water quality protection component. Several developers have put conservation easements on substantial amount of acreage near the development and then have allowed for walking trails in there. So that's something that we've worked with several developers and think that's a really good win-win for everyone. Richland County and the Conservation Commission is a member of the Kawassi Basin. Landowners and organizations and agencies that have an interest in property along the Congaree River and the Wateree River. And so on the map on the far side, you can see Congaree National Park, of course, takes up most of that protected property. But you also see how many other easements, state and federal easements there are in that area. It's a 300,000 acre area. And Richland County has just recently acquired 1,700 acres in the Kawassi Basin. That is, if you recall, the transportation penny projects. There's going to be all this road widening and some new roads, and whenever that happens, this is a very wet county. There are all kinds of creeks, there are all kinds of wetlands. So when roads impact wetlands and creeks, streams, then there has to be mitigation. You have to compensate for the fact that you are destroying some of these natural resources. You have to compensate for that by protecting them or restoring them elsewhere in the county. And in order to help move things along with the penny projects, the county acquired the Mill Creek Mitigation Bank, and it's that red property just west of the Congaree National Park. And so this is a really terrific property it's right there on the Congaree River. So it is going to be restored. That's what mitigation means, is they have to go in and restore the ditches and dikes that have dammed up creeks. That will be restored, and then that property, it's been purchased with your taxpayer dollars, is going to be a public recreational amenity. And so we're really excited about that. We haven't figured out exactly how that's all going to work. But today, as a matter of fact, was a deadline for submissions of what Dr. Ellis was talking about. We've asked consultants to help us come up with a conceptual plan for the recreational amenities that could happen at this property and another one in Lower Richland, and what kind of businesses, how could we develop businesses and economic spin-off that come from developing the tourism, the eco-heritage tourism opportunities in this property. The other big part of our program is our grant program, and so we developed this back in 2006 as a way to help do historic preservation in the county and in the city. And since then, we have awarded over almost $2 million now to projects all through the county to restore historically significant buildings or to help with education and research projects. This is the Harriet Barber House in Hopkins in the Lower Richland area. This was our very first grantee. This property was Harriet and Sam Barber in 1872 bought this 40 acres and from the South Carolina Land Commission. They were enslaved Africans that were freed and bought this, and it has stayed in the families, in the same family all these many years. And so now it's been restored. It's used as a community center. There's tours and all kinds of educational activities that happen there. These are two other projects we did that are out in the county. Both of these were log cabins. The Lindler House on the left was a log cabin built in the late 1700s, and this is over in the Ballantyne Walmart area. When Walmart came in, they were going to tear this building down, and Michael Biedenball with Palmetto Trust for Historic Preservation took a look at that and said, let me check this out. And he went inside with permission and was able to find the original log cabin, and some really incredibly beautiful paneling work that had been done way back in the early 1800s. So that has been restored somewhat, and then also the log cabin at Sesqui was moved there back in 1970 from the Broad River. They brought in a company from Georgia to hand hew the logs. I mean, it was an impressive operation. Historic preservation means economic development. You all know this because you've seen what's happened downtown with all the changes, the Mass General Store, Fox Theater is now Nickelodeon, certainly 701. What a difference and what an impact that has made to our whole community. So we were proud to be a part of those projects. And this is a Rosenwald School, a property owned by the Recreation Commission. And Rosenwald schools were built in from about 1912 to 1930 with money from the Mr. Rosenwald, who was one of the founders of Sears Roebuck. He would provide money if the community provided sweat equity, the white and the black community, to build these schools for African American children. And there were about 5,000 of them built across the southeast. And we had 15, I think, in the county. This is the only one left standing. And so it's been restored now. Some of our educational projects, we've funded the booklet on Majeska Simpkins. Cemetery research and cemetery restoration is very expensive. The cemetery restoration is. We've helped with that at Randolph Cemetery in particular. National Register districts and National Register nominations. And one of our favorite projects these days is the restoration of that B-25 Mitchell bomber that's over at Owens Field. And that was pulled from Lake Greenwood. And that we've been helping these incredible volunteers with funding to buy the pieces that they have to, but they've manufactured themselves and done so much work on this. We're hoping to have some grand unveiling of the bomber later this year. I mentioned the cemetery work. We've had a big cemetery survey done of all of the cemeteries in the county. We know that's not complete. We're hoping, though, to keep adding to that. And you see several of those are pictures at Fort Jackson, damage that's been done to cemeteries. So it's quite a problem. We provide money for historical markers. We do community conservation grants for those various types of activities. You can see Chanda with students on one of her education projects. Belser Arboretum is over on the right. And we love trail projects. So if you're in a neighborhood that's got a possibility for some kind of walking trail, especially if there's woods around it or a creek, talk to us. We'd be real interested in working with you on something like that. Educational grants, there's Chenille. She was out at Congaree National Park participating in a workshop that we helped fund. This was another one, Gills Creek Master Plan. As a result of this, Gills Creek was able to be number 3 on the Transportation Penny Greenway list, and so work is really moving forward now on that plan to have a greenway all through that green area in the middle. And this, I just want you to know, is a project that's been going on a while, but we think finally this is the year things are going to happen. The Owens Field Park, you all are probably familiar with. City of Columbia runs that, leases that, but that big green V area, there are trails in there, but they've been badly damaged over the years from all the stormwater coming off of District 1's Memorial Stadium and those fields. So we've got a joint project with the city, and one of these days, real soon, we're going to be turning dirt and making things much better there. So we're excited about that. And I hope all of you all got a copy of the Trails booklet that we printed several years ago.